What if WNBA All-Star press conference was supposed to celebrate unity and solidarity among the league's biggest stars? Instead, it turned into the most uncomfortable moment in recent WNBA history when Kelsey Plum opened her mouth and dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming.
We had a very,
That really needed to be mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay?
What started as a simple question about team shirts turned into a calculated attack on Caitlin Clark that has left the entire basketball world picking sides. But here's the twist that nobody expected: Clark's response didn't just shut down Plum's petty comments, it exposed something much darker about the politics destroying women's basketball from the inside. The whole controversy started with what seemed like a powerful moment of player solidarity. During the 2025 WNBA All-Star weekend, every player walked onto the court wearing bold black t-shirts with a clear message: pay us what you owe us.
Pay us what you owe us. And of course, everybody clowned that.
The statement was supposed to represent the entire league standing together for better working conditions, equal pay, and respect in the workplace. Fans initially praised the coordinated effort, seeing it as players from rival teams putting aside their differences to fight for something bigger than basketball. But what looked like spontaneous unity was actually a carefully orchestrated plan that went down in a private players' meeting that very morning. That's where things get interesting, and where Kelsey Plum made the decision that would blow everything up. During the post-game press conference, Plum was asked about the shirts and the powerful message they represented. Instead of focusing on the positive aspects of player solidarity, she decided to throw some serious shade. Not to tattletale, she said with a smirk, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. The room went dead silent. You could literally feel the tension as everyone processed what just happened. Sabrina Ionescu, sitting right next to Plum, gave the most epic eye roll in WNBA history, knowing immediately that the internet was about to explode.
Ionescu did not like this shit, by the way. I give her credit because she was like, oh boy. I mean, you know, it was ridiculous.
But let's break down what really happened here, because this wasn't some innocent comment or lighthearted joke. Plum knew exactly what she was doing when she singled out Caitlin Clark's teammates for not being at that morning meeting. Clark herself was recovering from a groin injury and couldn't even play in the All-Star game, yet somehow she became the target of the most public backhanded slap the WNBA has ever seen. The meeting wasn't held without Team Clark by accident. You really think it's a coincidence that none of the league's biggest draws teammates were informed about this spontaneous protest? These players walked into the arena expecting to play basketball and found shirts waiting in their lockers without any context or explanation. What made Plum's comment even worse was the way she tried to frame it. She prefaced it with, not to tattletale, like she was some elementary school kid reporting on her classmates. That phrase alone showed exactly what kind of energy she was bringing to what should have been a professional moment about serious workplace issues. Instead of highlighting the unity and strength of the movement, she chose to focus on who wasn't there, creating division where there should have been solidarity. And the way she said, Team Clark, with that particular emphasis, made it clear this was personal. Caitlin Clark stayed quiet for days after Plum's comments, which only made the anticipation worse. Social media was going crazy with people taking sides, but Clark remained focused on her recovery and didn't engage with the drama. But when she finally responded, it wasn't through some long Instagram story or press conference. It was 6 words that completely demolished Kelsey Plum and exposed the hypocrisy of the entire situation. Under one of Plum's Instagram posts from the All-Star game, Clark simply wrote, "Thank you for the Nike ad." That's it. 6 words that sent the basketball world into absolute chaos. For those who didn't immediately get it, let me explain why this response was pure genius. Kelsey Plum is sponsored by Under Armour, while Caitlin Clark has a massive deal with Nike. In Plum's post celebrating the All-Star game, there was Nike branding visible in the background, which meant that Plum had literally turned her own social media post into free advertising for her biggest competitor sponsor. Clark didn't need to argue or throw insults. She just pointed out that even when Plum was trying to shade her, she was still inadvertently promoting Clark's brand. It was the kind of chess move that shows the difference between someone who understands the business side of basketball and someone who's just focused on petty drama. But this incident with Clark isn't the only time Kelsey Plum has found herself in hot water for running her mouth when she should have stayed quiet. Just a few weeks ago, Plum went on an absolutely unhinged rant about WNBA officiating after the Los Angeles Sparks lost to the Golden State Valkyries. We're talking about a full-blown, expletive-filled meltdown where she basically accused the referees of having some kind of bias against certain players. She even implied that officials might treat white players differently than black players, which is the kind of explosive accusation that can destroy careers and relationships in professional sports. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. Time and time again, Kelsey Plum finds herself at the center of controversies because she can't seem to control what comes out of her mouth. Whether she's throwing shade at the league's biggest star or going off on referees with NSFW rants, she's consistently creating drama instead of focusing on basketball, and now fans are starting to notice. Despite having over 1.2 million Instagram followers and a lucrative Under Armour deal, basketball fans are actually calling for boycotts against Plum because of what they're calling her petty behavior. The numbers tell the real story about why Plum's comments about Clark were so misguided. When news broke that Caitlin Clark wouldn't be playing in the All-Star game due to her injury, ticket prices immediately dropped by 50%. That's not just popularity, that's the kind of economic impact that shows who really drives value in this league. These other players can wear all the protest shirts they want and make all the demands they think they deserve, but the harsh reality is that 90% of the increased attention and revenue the WNBA has seen recently is directly tied to one name, Caitlin Clark. Think about how wild that is for a second. One player being ruled out of a game caused the entire market value of the event to crash by half. That's not normal athlete influence, that's the kind of star power that transcends sports and enters the realm of entertainment and cultural impact. Clark isn't just bringing in basketball fans, she's bringing in people who never cared about women's basketball before. She's the reason ticket sales are up, merchandise is flying off the shelves, and television ratings are reaching record numbers. Yet instead of protecting and celebrating that kind of generational talent, players like Kelsey Plum seem determined to tear her down. The irony is absolutely incredible when you really think about it. These veteran players are demanding to be paid what they're owed while simultaneously alienating and disrespecting the one person who's actually making those bigger paychecks possible. They want the benefits of Clark's star power, the increased viewership, the higher ticket sales, the merchandise revenue, but they also want to ice her out, mock her success, and create hostile environments that could potentially drive her away. From the league, you can't have it both ways. You don't get to bash someone in press conferences and then cash in on the popularity and revenue they bring to your sport. What makes this whole situation even more explosive is the timing. The WNBA is in the middle of collective bargaining agreement negotiations, which means players' salaries and working conditions are literally being decided right now. The "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirt campaign was supposed to show a united front during these crucial talks. Instead, Kelsey Plum managed to turn it into a divisive moment that highlighted the jealousy and internal conflicts that are tearing the league apart from the inside. She took what should have been the players' strongest moment and made it about personal beef with the league's biggest star. Even retired NBA legends are starting to weigh in on this situation, and they're not holding back their criticism of how Clark has been treated by some of her fellow players. When three-time NBA champions are calling out your behavior and saying you've crossed a line, that should be a wake-up call. Real legends recognize rising stars and know that you protect that kind of talent. You don't try to tear it down out of jealousy or frustration. The smart veterans understand that a rising tide lifts all boats, but some of these WNBA players seem more interested in making sure nobody else gets too high above their level. The fan reaction has been swift and brutal for Kelsey Plum. Social media is absolutely roasting her for the "tattletale" comment, and many people are calling it the most petty and unprofessional moment they've ever seen from a veteran player. The general consensus seems to be that Plum comes across as jealous, bitter, and completely tone-deaf to the reality of who actually brings value to the WNBA. Meanwhile, Clark continues to handle herself with class and professionalism, which only makes the contrast more obvious to anyone paying attention. But here's where things might get really interesting. Reports are starting to surface that suggest this feud between Clark and some of the veteran players is creating serious behind-the-scenes tension that could affect the entire league's future. There are whispers about potential team chemistry issues, sponsor concerns about the negative publicity, and even questions about whether the WNBA's growth trajectory could be impacted if these internal conflicts continue to spill out into public view. The league has worked too hard to get to this point of mainstream relevance to let petty jealousies and ego battles destroy the momentum. The uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to say out loud is that the WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem, not because she gets too much attention, but because without her, they suddenly realize they don't have enough attention to sustain the growth they've experienced. The veterans can demand what they're owed all they want, but maybe it's time they ask themselves why the checks aren't as big when she's not on the court bringing in the revenue. She's not just a player in this league anymore. She's become the headline act, the main event, the reason casual fans tune in and buy tickets. As for what comes next in this escalating drama, all eyes are on how the WNBA leadership handles the situation. Do they continue to let veteran players take shots at their biggest star, or do they step in and protect the golden goose that's laying all these golden eggs? The league has to decide whether they want to support the players who are driving growth and bringing in new fans, or if they're going to let internal politics and jealousy destroy the best thing that's happened to women's basketball in decades. One thing is absolutely certain, this feud between Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark isn't going away anytime soon. If anything, it's probably just getting started. With the collective bargaining negotiations ongoing and both players having strong personalities who aren't afraid to make their feelings known, we could be looking at a situation that defines the WNBA's future direction. Will the league choose growth and embracing its stars, or will it allow veteran egos and petty conflicts to hold back its potential? The stakes couldn't be higher for women's basketball right now. This is a pivotal moment where the decisions made could determine whether the WNBA continues its upward trajectory or falls back into the relative obscurity it fought so hard to escape. Kelsey Plum's comments at that All-Star press conference might have seemed like a small moment, but they've exposed fundamental tensions that could shape the entire future of the sport. The question now is whether the league has the leadership and vision to navigate these challenges, or if it will let internal drama derail the incredible progress that's been made.